It's about creating a environment where everyone feels safe to throw any idea they have out there. I think the word format is something that we should hear more.
100%.
It has never been easier to make content. So that means you are competing against more people. If you put a trend in front of me, within 2 minutes, I have at least worked out how we would do it.
Dude, I'm so excited to have you, Andrew. We've been watching some of the stuff you guys have been doing for a while, but we're excited to have you on Radical Content, and we're pumped to kind of get into everything and hear your story, but also hear what's going on at Cava. So thanks for joining the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really happy to be here. It's a fun way to start off a Friday morning. So I'm excited to dig in.
Now I can tell you're in New York because I hear some.
You can hear some sirens. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's good. It's we're on set in New York City. So actually, this is like a question I was going to ask at the very end, but let's just ask it now. I think it's got to be the coolest to do social in New York. And I don't just like being around the energy. Like I'm in Orlando. That's kind of where I've been for most of my career. I've worked at places like Universal Parks and EA Sports, and we've done social kind of all over the country. But I imagine there's kind of a little bit of a coolness factor to living in the city, or at least around the city. I think you're in Brooklyn, and kind of being in the social media industry. What's that like?
Yeah, I mean, New York is great, right? Because you can walk out of your door and you're inspired the second you walk out.
Yeah.
There's so many people that you're around that are doing cool things. So I think that's always awesome. There's, it's like you meet a friend of a friend at a bar, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm director of this, or I'm marketing of this, or I'm a creative director of this. And it's like really cool how you make all these connections, and all of a sudden you just know all these people. I will say though, I think at the same time, right? Like when you're in New York, like New York can be a bubble though too.
Oh.
It can be a marketing bubble, it can be a social bubble, it can be like a fashion bubble, like all these things. So I think like what honestly makes good marketers though in New York is being able to also understand the rest of the country.
Yeah.
And so depending on what client you're working on or what brand you're at, that can really matter. It's awesome. The inspiration is amazing. The people are amazing, but you also have to keep yourself grounded and a little humble too.
For those that don't know, tell us, just kind of give us a little bit of summary of kind of what Cava is. Is it a quick serve? Like how do we even describe the kind of the brand, that vertical, the industry that we're in, and a little bit of the role that you have today?
Yeah, so I'm director of social media here at Cava. Cava is a industry-leading Mediterranean fast casual brand. So we say fast casual instead of quick service. You go through the line, you can build your own bowl, but we also have a lot of chef-curated bowls that our awesome culinary team puts a lot of work into.
Man, you guys are doing such cool things, and we're going to talk a lot about Bowlmates, which probably won't surprise you at some point as we get into this. But I want to take a step back a little bit and think about the brand and the business, because one of the biggest struggles that social media professionals have today is trying to find a way to make social matter to a customer, to figure out who your customer is and to make kind of social matter. And so how do we make this person wake up and care about this brand on social? It's a real challenge. And I think you guys are finding some new and different ways. And so I'd love to kind of hear, how do you solve that problem?
One thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is what I like to call an idea ring. So you have an idea in the middle, right? So let's say the idea in the middle is a joke about pita chips. The way that these algorithms are working right now, they're pushing out your content to a lot of non-followers. If a non-follower of Cava sees a meme or a joke about pita chips, why would that resonate with them, right? So if we take a step back in that idea ring, what's one level back? It's a joke about like fried bread. What's the one level back of that? That's a joke about carbs, right? So it's like some of these things that maybe can be a little more relevant to more people is kind of how you can start thinking about content, social, whatever. So you think about Bowlmates, the dating show that we made. It's not really about Cava, it's about dating, right? So it's like we're taking a step back, but it's set in a Cava. It's just new ways for people to find your brand by kind of Trojan horsing your brand into the content.
I love that. Colin and Samir talk a lot about total addressable market on YouTube, right? So it's like, how do you broaden your total addressable market? So you just can reach more people. And so
exactly,
that's kind of what you're trying to do. It's like there's a niche idea. And by the way, there's a time to go niche and go super fan, but there's also a time that's like we're trying to pull people in the top of the funnel from an awareness standpoint, and how you do that in social is very interesting. Now, I meant to take a step back and kind of talk about how you got to where you are. Tell me a little bit of your story and kind of how that intersects, because I think there's a lot of things in there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've lived 1,000 lives in this world of social. I got my first agency job after working at a sports magazine. Actually, the first 2 years out of college, I was working at a sports magazine. I was running the social. I was in charge of designers for the print magazine. I was in charge of hiring photographers for the stories. I was writing the stories myself and taking photos myself. So then I got an internship working with Under Armour, where I actually traveled around to all their different high school basketball camps in the summer, or their tournaments in the summer. So I was working with a lot of the guys that are in the league right now: Anthony Edwards, Naz Reid, Anthony Simons, a lot of these guys. So I really learned the social world through just being on the ground. There would be about, I think, like 86 games in 3 days. You're locked in a gym and you're just cranking out content on Instagram, Snapchat. TikTok wasn't around back then. We were taking photos, editing photos, doing video. I mean, it was insane. So from there, I got into the agency world, where I got my hands on a lot. Can
I ask you a question about the sports world? By the way,
absolutely.
Radio, television, and film graduate. Sports radio was my first job. Afternoon drive producer for the
Awesome.
sports radio station in San Antonio. Big NBA fan, so you are speaking my language. But I want to ask you, like, going back to those days, like those hard, scrappy days where you're doing a lot, wearing a lot of hats. Nowadays, social professionals like to complain on LinkedIn about all the hats they have to wear. What was the thing that you learned back then in those days that you feel like is a thread that still kind of comes through in today? Because there's a lot of things I think about my old sports days.
The easy answer, obviously, is the hard work. Like, I mean, like we were at the gym at about 6:30, 7 a.m. every day, and we leave at 11 p.m. every night. But I think like the work ethic, I think what I learned the most, and obviously through playing sports too, is like you can do a lot by yourself, but you will never be stronger than with a team. Mm-hmm. So that goes into like me now at Cava, being able to build teams is awesome, but also like being on set on a production, right? Like everyone knowing their role and playing their roles, within a team. And it's the same thing with a social, right? Like, I mean, like everything is kind of playing its role. Instagram does something different than TikTok does versus, YouTube or Twitter. And even to scale it back out, like social is only a part of the equation too. Sure. There's paid media, there's email, there's in restaurant stuff for like Cava if you have a business like that. And it's everyone, firing on all cylinders and playing your role. I mean, you'll never be stronger than that.
Yeah, I love that. One thing I want to talk about, because I saw an article where you were talking about, or at least the article was talking about brand love. I think there's lots of important aspects of social, organic social. We talk a lot about it on our side, is like it's ultimately kind of a trust marketing, a relational marketing side of things. It's to try to get people in to care about your brand and hopefully build brand loyalty. But that's hard at a lot of companies. A lot of companies don't think about that in that way. How is Cava thinking about social that you feel like has helped you build a team and unlock big ideas that can actually impact the brand? I mean,
I'm very lucky. I have a lot of support from my leaders here at Cava. I think like step one is like, it's amazing to have people that see the value in social
100%.
and see the value in like, I feel like we use community a lot, obviously, right? Because you're growing community, but you're also growing fandom within that community. I think fandom isn't used enough sometimes when we're talking about social and marketing. I feel like you think of like Marvel movies or stuff like that when you think fandom, but like you are a fan of the brand, you're a fan of that product in my life. That's kind of how people think. Social is always changing how you reach these fans. So I think like that's one thing that we're thinking about for 2026 and beyond is if your followers aren't seeing your content as much as non-followers are, where are they going to see it? It's going to be a close friends. It's going to be a broadcast channel that has, some of your top fans in it. So I think it's just being open to expanding where you're reaching people. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, no, I love that. So you've been in the game for a minute here, Andrew. You're probably not as dated as I am. Coming up on 47 this year. But social has changed. The For You page has changed social a lot. Yep. And I think a lot of old school marketers, I think sometimes me even, I can't believe that's me, look at social the same way, and they're not evolving like they should. But how do you think that social has changed? Kind of how is today's social different than maybe it was, 10 or 15 years ago.
One of the big things is it has never been easier to make content.
Mm-hmm.
So that means you are competing against more people, right? Like I can pull out my phone right now and make a video just talking to camera. CapCut, right? Like, I mean, everyone has CapCut on their phone. You not only can you just pull out your phone and do a talking to camera video, but you can edit something really nicely. As a brand, you're competing against a lot more. And you even think about like AI now, like people are just putting out AI videos and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like I mean, you are just competing against so much more that you weren't before. So like that right away is just an insane difference. And then now, once TikTok really started getting popular, I feel like 2021, when it was like really starting to rise, the FYP was like a new thing, and that was introduced to people. And so all of a sudden you had this algorithm that like, knows your inner thoughts. It's like, I never even said that out loud. Why is it showing me 5 videos about this?
Dude, literally, I told my wife this week, I wish I could create my own algorithm. And I know there's a lot of legal stuff that a lot of people wish Facebook would let you do that, or Meta would let you do that. But like, I really would like that, because I feel like the things I'm telling it I want, I'm like, I don't really want that anymore. I would like to be somewhere else, but here I am.
No, I wish it almost like could act as like website pages where it's like, okay, like here's my educational feed, here's my sports feed. Like, let me like switch to the sports feed now, blah, 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 So once that started happening, like it was more about attention. It became this like, you're grasping so much for someone's attention because they're just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and their like brain is melting. It started slowly to become less about your followers. I feel like follower count is just it doesn't matter as much anymore, because we look at our content and you might see like on most posts 60% of the views are coming from non-followers, or 75, like 70. And I know that is the way like Instagram is moving. That's the way TikTok has moved. So I feel like that is one of the biggest differences.
Have you had to educate that differently inside of your 4 walls about the, with the at least the actual metric of follower versus kind of, general impression, or maybe, some of the other core metrics?
So that's something actually like I'm working on now, because I feel like it's been like the last like 3 to 5 months since Instagram has really doubled down on that. And like I said, like TikTok has kind of always been like that. And like part of me is, kind of annoyed that Instagram is moving towards this way, but also maybe it makes the job easier because it's kind of all the same to an extent. An inside joke just might not hit anymore because it's not even getting to the people that understand the inside joke. And if you can't do inside jokes, how do you grow more inside jokes to grow your community? Like it's drop a meme in the broadcast channel then, or put it on close friends story, stuff like that I think it's so different. There's all these new avenues to reach people, so you got to really sift through the ones that work for you for what you're trying to do.
Yeah, and you got to work super hard. And so this is one question before we get to Bowlmates, is because of all this attention or lack of attention, because there's so much content out the door, you've got to work hard. I talk about ruthless creativity, right? Like ruthless meaning that we have to sharp and go deeper and try to find the best thing that's going to work, rather than just like taking the thing that and kind of just continuing to hit on it. Is there a way you've found with your team or with your agency partners to really create that, I'll call it, environment of ruthless creativity to force us to go deeper?
I mean, I think that the biggest thing is having an environment where no idea is bad, like no idea is stupid. Like, I always tell people like inspiration can come from anywhere. Sometimes it's not just the social team getting in a brainstorm, like we work with some designers on the creative teams, like, they're in the brainstorms a lot. We also have a lot of younger people at Cava, right? If we're trying to reach Gen Z, like there's a lot of younger people at Cava that are on their phones and on the socials a lot too. But they don't work on my team. They don't even work in marketing. But like I've actually been able to make some connections to different people. So we have like a Slack channel with like I'd probably say like 5 to 6 people outside of like actual marketing, but they're just tapped in because of like who they are. And that's kind of fun to like see what they're seeing on the feeds and get their feedback on different things. Because like I said earlier, like things can be a bubble,
Yeah.
it's like social can be a bubble. Honestly, it's about creating a environment where everyone feels safe to throw any idea they have out there, but also like being willing to explore it. I think you
Yeah.
hear a lot of people say like, as a brand, you don't have to do every single trend. And I agree with that. But the way my brain works, if you put a trend in front of me, within 2 minutes, I have at least worked out how we would do it.
Yeah.
Now, it
I
doesn't mean
get
you
that.
should do it, right? But
Sure.
it's like, let's work it out. Let's go down the path. Let's have some fun,
Yeah.
And I, maybe that's what it is. It's creating an environment of fun when it comes to like brainstorming and
I love that.
ideating. And I think that will get you deeper.
Yeah, I love that. We should clip that. That's good. All right, I've teased it. Let's talk about Bowlmates. Social in general has seen some success with social shows, branded or not, right? Whether it's a creator or a brand, shows have been around forever. Micro shows even started, probably 6 or 7 years ago. Forget the app that created it, but they failed. It was like Quibi or something.
Oh my
like
God.
that.
Yeah.
That?
Wow.
Is that what it's called?
The kids don't know about that one. That was a good pull.
My sister-in-law is a comedian, and she was doing a show for them. She was like piloting a show that got canceled because they went under.
That was good. They were maybe ahead of their time.
Oh, I think 100% they're ahead of their time, right?
Yeah.
I think you're totally right. So you guys started Bowlmates. It's a dating show centered in and around, like, you guys are kind of the backdrop for this dating show. So tell me about Bowlmates and how it got started.
So how it got started was so we launched in fall of 2025 now. And that spring, I actually brought together my social team, some of the other people I was talking about, like a designer, some creative team, also some people that are outside of marketing. And I brought them all together and I had a brief for them. I said, hey, social shows are starting to bubble up. This is something that we could get into. I want you guys to partner up, go away for 2 weeks, and come back to me with 2 to 3 ideas. And I'll do the same. I don't want to just give people work and me not do it.
No, I was pretending like Andrew was on some like big golden chair waiting for people to bring him ideas.
Yeah. Put it on my desk. No, I did the same.
Approved, denied.
Yeah. So I did the same, and we all came back together. And we had probably like I said, there's no bad ideas. We probably had like 20, 25 ideas. We narrowed it down to like 12 that we really liked, and had like an inkling of like, okay, maybe there's something here. And when I told the team to go look for inspiration, I had some different brands that are doing some different things, whether it's an actual branded show or, you have something like Mad Realities, who has like bodega cats and stuff that it's not necessarily it's a media company. And that was inspiration. But I also told him, I said, go watch some old VH1 shows, or like go watch some old MTV shows.
MTV, yeah, for sure.
Boy Rooms is Room Raiders for social.
Yeah.
The same company, Gymnasium, just launched a show for some I don't know the brand, I'm sorry, but it's like a vacuum for like cars. They just launched like a Pimp My Ride like version.
Yeah, of course.
So it's taking right. I mean, I was like, it's genius. It's taking all of these old formats that are proven to work and bringing them to social. So that I told my team that that's a good place for inspiration. So once we came back, we brought on Very Online Agency. Me and Jacob, the founder, crossed over at an agency for about 10 months at one point. And so we brought them on. We showed them some of the shows that we liked. They pitched some stuff back, and we kind of landed on Bowlmates. And honestly, the reason Bowlmates was the one that kind of won out is because of how turnkey it was. We already had the setting. We have a Cava. We don't have to pay for a setting, which is awesome. And then it comes down to casting. We had a list of people we wanted to be hosts. Daniela Mora was number 1 on our list. So that made it easy when she said yes. We didn't have to go down the list a little bit more. And then the first season, all the daters were casted off of like friends of friends or friends that we know.
Yeah.
So the casting actually was pretty easy, and it was really just super, super turnkey to get it together. Obviously, I'm sure you want to know why Bowlmates, though, like the idea. I feel like right now, like over the last 2 years, you've heard all this talk about like dating apps, like, sucking for people, people feeling lonely, people wanting in-person connection. And then also, like, if you look around New York City, there's also like a lot of like fun dating shows that kind of bring the who's who of downtown New York or celebs, like when they're in town. And we kind of just wanted to blend that concept of, reaching Gen Z in a space that they're interested in, but also feel frustration in, while also blending Cava's, ability and want to bring people together and be connected. Kind of feel like that is the ethos of Cava, right? Like you eat food around a table, you have connections, you talk. So it was honestly just a perfect blend of that.
Was there ever a consideration, host or no host? You always wanted a host on it. I'm watching some. I'm just clicking through, by the way.
Yeah. I think for us, we wanted a host. Honestly, because like, what if you cast people and they're awkward or they're boring? Like,
you need someone to kind of guide it.
You need someone to vamp a little bit. And the reason, we always knew we wanted a comedian, because we knew we wanted someone that could make some jokes and stuff. I mean, to be honest, like, there's so much on the cutting room floor from Daniela because she's hilarious. But like, we also have to show the date.
Why a social show? Like strategically from a channel standpoint, a marketing standpoint, because there's a lot of people right now that want to do this.
I mean, I think a social show, right, is, like you said, it's not necessarily a novel idea anymore. And I don't know if it ever was, in the sense of having some type of serial content. Like, even before TikTok was around, right? When we talk about those things that we were doing for clients or brands before TikTok or before video even hit, like, you still had things that, like,
series, some kind of
series. Still had series. I remember back when I worked on the Looney Tunes account, we used to have this series where we would take a word in the land of Looney Tunes, right? So it might be like varmint or something. It might be something that Elmer Fudd says, or all the other characters. And what we would do is, like, it was pretty cool. We would take the word and we would design it with a font and like 3D design that leaned into like the character that says it. But we would actually give like a glossary, like history lesson of like where that word came from.
That's fun. Yeah.
So I say all that to say is, like, that's not a social show, right? It's not a video. It's not something that's based off of like a old MTV show, but that is a serial content series. So that's been around for a while. And I think when it comes to social shows, the reason why not just Cava has done it, but other brands, is because the way that social is moving, where, like, if you see something on your FYP and you like it, you engage with it, maybe you save it, maybe you send it to a friend, you're going to get like 5 of those videos out of the next 10 or something, right? So it's like creating this space and creating this type of content that's going to continually reach people, I feel like, is why it's worked for people, why people gravitate towards it. And I feel like that's why we wanted to try it, honestly. I mean, like, we didn't know we were going to put it on a different account until like,
I wanted to ask about that decision, because that was a conversation internally, and I want to know why y'all landed where you landed.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we were like, let's just go for it. Like, I mean, like,
dude, I love this. I want to come work with Andrew.
It's like, if you're like if we're gonna try it, let's lean in. And sometimes I wonder, like, was that the right move? Was it not? But there probably isn't a right or wrong.
There's not. But I love what I love is, like, because I overthink a lot in building my company and running social teams at Universal. And it does help, I think, get to excellence. But I think it does stop a lot of creativity and speed. And so I just love sometimes a little bit of like, F it, let's just roll with it. Let's do it live. We'll figure it out as we go. I think that's something that in the social space, some teams are really great at. I think other teams, it's probably leader dependent. Other teams are a little bit less great at.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I wonder, like, what would it have been like on Cava? I mean, I think the thing is, though, is like, if you keep it on like the Cava channel, you do run the risk of like someone seeing it, and then it's like, oh, wow, this is funny. Like, let me click on the Cava channel. And then it's like, it feels very out of place.
Yeah.
So it might just be like a weird interaction with the brand if someone doesn't know the brand or something like that.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
Gives it space to live and breathe on its own.
Yeah. A couple other things you mentioned when you first started talking about this was, I love the idea of social media professionals being treated as almost like comedic writers to like go come up with ideas. Go do it in groups and let's pitch some ideas together. We've recently even changed some stuff how we do internally, where we do some brainstorms kind of in a room. But the point of view is like, genius doesn't happen in a room when no one's thought about what you're about to talk about. What happens is you send people out, and we come in and we pitch ideas almost, in an SNL kind of way. I love that idea. And then the other thing that I love that you said, I talk about all this all the time, and I've got it like a screenshot of a deck in my mind right now where I list out probably 70 formats of video content ideas that have worked since the beginning of time and still work today. Some of them are new. There's some emerging formats. Like I think the like Intercept on the Street is kind of a little bit of an emerging format. But even still, that's just a freaking interview. It's just done with a new twist. Like Hot Ones, is it amazing? Hot Ones is just an interview. It just has a shtick to it. So we got to figure out as social media professionals, what's our shtick? There's a lot of pressure sometimes with social media people to like come up with something so unique, original, that's never been done before. But a lot of times those are actually harder to land. When you come up with something that's slightly familiar, it's kind of in line with the way that their brain has been wired to consume content. To me, that's a very interesting way that you guys decided to go in. And in a dating show, that format has been done before. You're just doing your version of it.
Honestly, I think the word format is something that we should hear more.
100%
in social, like even like with a meme, right? Like you think about like the classic meme of like the guy holding his girlfriend's hand and he's like looking at the other girl. And it's like that meme has been around forever because of the format of what it's doing. It's you being distracted with a new thing versus an old thing. So you can use that for a new menu item drop. You can use that for, you can make a meme about a new shirt that came out for like a clothing brand. Like it's just the format. And I do feel like because social has moved to this space where like trends became so popular, so popular with TikTok, that I do sometimes like worry that younger creatives in social are losing the concept of like the format of a joke or the format of a meme, the format of an interview, the idea that an interview is a format, right? Yeah. The word format, I just feel like should be like top of mind for every social professional.
I think social professionals should like have to go like take like comedy writing shows. My friend, I don't know if you know Sarah Whittle, but she's out there in New York, and she led social at Crocs and Duolingo, and now she's doing her own thing. She's doing a bunch of stuff in the comedy space right now. And I love it. I'm like, yes, go learn that. Like that is where you will become best in class. And so I totally agree. And I've kind of been like the anti-trend person for a while, and it works, right? Like I know that it works. You're drafting off of something in the zeitgeist that you can kind of jump into the same pool and get some attention. But I've always said is the attention's a little empty because you stole someone else's idea. It doesn't mean you can't borrow that for a minute and then try to build a relationship independently. But if that's all that you do, it feels a little bit like vapor rather than like something like they've created something original that I want, like Bowlmates.
Yeah, I feel like there's different types of trends too, right? There's a content trend, which would be like a trending sound or something like that. There's a macro trend, which might be like social shows. And then there's like a cultural trend, like demure, like popping up. Right. And then on top of that, right, all the nuance is having the experience, and I would even say taste, to understand what's going to be like around for a minute. You think about Charlie XCX and Brat Summer, like to be honest, like I didn't think we would still be seeing that green color everywhere, but we do. And it's awesome. It's like that's attached to her now. There's different types of trends at scale, and then some of them are not really a trend. Now it's just around. You have to also understand, like, why are you doing it? Are you doing it for more people to find Cava? Are we going to attach ourselves to this trend so like we can reach more people will see us, see our content, maybe they'll follow us? Or are you trying to entertain your followers who are seeing this trend and you want to put a spin on it for them and their enjoyment and their like community building? I would say like any place that I've been when we were doing content, we really try to, if we're doing a trend, it's like, okay, but how can we like add something to it and like put a spin on it that's like kind of funny?
Make something that's more unique or ownable.
Yeah, exactly. So how can you just like add a little something to it?
Like I always say, like, if you have a reason to be there, right? Remember when people were creating those little vertical videos, like super vertical videos?
Yes.
It was so dumb.
Yes.
The only one I thought was interesting was was Twix. Because I was like, they should do something.
Yes, that was a really good one. Yep.
I was like, yes, you have to do something. Like it's right in front of you.
I think that's a great call out. I mean, like, because that's something that we talked about. It's like we raised that, and it's like, oh, like these are popping up, and then like you go through the Rolodex of like, okay, like what's in our what could we do, what blah blah blah, and it's like really nothing that really makes sense. Let's not force it. Yeah, exactly.
I love that. By the way, you also mentioned something I think that is way underplayed is the importance of social taste, like from a leader standpoint, but even in as you're growing up as a social professional, like having social, and that just comes with like time in the seat, consuming a lot of content, and I think creating content. That goes back to one of the first things we talked about is like having someone in social that's actually created something before is going to create social taste. It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. That taste has nothing to do with being correct. Right. It has to do with having a point of view. What have you learned? What is the thing that you're like, we did it. We've done a couple seasons. Or what are you about to do? The second season? Where are you guys at in it?
We just wrapped season 2, and I don't know if you saw too. Just a little plug here. We also created a physical card deck.
I'm looking at it. Yeah.
Of Bowlmates like questions, and it there's 4 different sections in the deck that coordinate with what's in the show. So that was like a really fun thing that we did too. But I would say what I learned. I mean, like I'll say this because I know there's social professionals that might think it's really expensive to make, but some of these social shows, if you get the right agency, we work with Very Online Agency. If you get the right agency that can understand how to make something specifically for social, from the casting to the questions to the cameras to to everything, it can be scrappier than you think. It can be cheaper than you think. And especially too, I mean, they do such a great job because the director also is the one editing it. So he also knows how he wants things to look in the edit. So that's great. But I would say it can be cheaper than you think. But the other thing too is like you do have to get some buy-in to do a few of them.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's hard to do a pilot because the reality is we all have budgets, and it's probably easier to shoot 4 in one day than it is to have 4 different shoot days for one. There's people you have to pay, there's lighting rentals, there's blah 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 blah, like all this stuff. So I would say you if you want to go to your leadership and talk to them about wanting to do a social show, don't say I want to test this.
That's interesting.
I don't know, do 3 to 5 to start or something. At least shoot them, right? Yeah. At least shoot 3 to 5 of them. And I think that is something that, can be hard to convince people of. And I totally get that.
I love that.
But I think it's good knowing that you should try to convince them of that.
I love that. I referenced my sister-in-law who's a comedian. Her name's Atsuko. She was on Brooklyn Coffee Shop.
Fun.
And I was like, and it went super viral. And I called her. I was like, hey, tell me just the setup. And she was like, Eric, it is so freaking scrappy. Like it is nothing fancy. Now she's like, she's a comedian. She's a writer. She said what it is it's very well written. The main girl is the writer. She writes everything. And that's what makes it. That's the special sauce is the writing. But I think that's a really good point is like the concept. Or in this one, the Brooklyn, the writing, there's something in there that makes it special. That has to be great.
Yes.
But the production around it can still be, I feel like the world of social, it's like either UGC or it's like, a giant crew. And it's like, there's so much in the middle of that, right? And so it's got to be, the production is just not that big a deal. And so I love that you called that out. It's I guess what you're saying is it's possible. Like, get scrappy, think about it, but it's possible. It's doable. One thing that I love to ask people on this show is like, I would identify you as a maverick. We are maverick. And so when you're a maverick in marketing in this career, you mess up and you take some hits and you have some fails. What is something along the way that has been a big fail, that has been a big kind of just blunder, but you learned from it, you grew from it?
Oh man. I mean, there's so many I probably can't say. I'll give like a Cava one because I don't think it was a huge fail, but like we expected a little bit more. When we launched cinnamon sugar pita chips, we had this series. You can go back and find it with a comedian, Sahib Singh, and we had this concept of like we kind of wanted to make our "You're not you and you're hungry." like vibe. You know, we wanted like a little tagline, a little
Yep.
character.
Yep.
And, you know, I think we learned a lot there where like maybe the videos were a little too long, you know, maybe visually we could have like upped it a little bit, like almost like lean into it being like a straight up ad a little bit more. I think sometimes like sometimes when you're in the middle, like you can get kind of stuck, you know? So it's like maybe we should have leaned in a little bit more. And you know, I thought the performance of that would have been a little bit better. I thought like we really liked it, and like I think if you watch it and you see it, you like it. But I don't think it reached that many people because like I think there's sometimes as a social professional, you can get too stuck in trying to make the first 3 seconds optimized because like when you optimize it to death, then it's like, okay, like there's no humanity in this. And like, I'm just doing it for engagement and that sucks.
Yeah.
On the other side of things, like sometimes you can also be too stubborn and it's like, all right, we're not going to get to the joke until 10 seconds in. And then you lose people. And I think we were kind of in the middle because like we all had so much love for the concept and it still did good. And it's really funny. Like I got a lot of text about that. You know, like my old CEO at Movement, Jason, texted me. He was like, were you behind this? This is really good, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I can't believe you even saw that because no one saw it. But there was like other people like sending it to me that are in the industry that apparently saw it. So like that was awesime. You know, it's not necessarily a fail, but like we expected a little bit more, and I would encourage you to just go back and watch it. I think they're fun. So
yeah, I will have to take a look. Well, dude, we went deep and all over the place. I really appreciate the time today. I know that you know the audience will as well, as they kind of are, you know, in brands and in agencies trying to figure out the world of brand social. And so keep doing what you're doing. It's awesome. You're setting the pace for a lot of us, and we love to be inspired by what you're doing. And so I just appreciate the time today. But thanks for being on Radical Content.
Yeah, absolutely. This was amazing. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to chat anytime.